Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about a new product, and that is the Too Faced Chocolate Gold palette. Look how pretty that packaging is, even though it's all smudgy and dirty already from all my fingerprints. Now this is Too Faced newest eyeshadow palette. This is actually an entire collection, the gold collection. I wasn't really particularly interested in anything else but the eyeshadow palette. I'm somebody who's extremely attracted to sparkly, shiny things. So of course I would like this palette. That's what the outside looks like, which is beautiful. It's like their same packaging as their regular chocolate bar palette, except they have this gold kind of melting onto the chocolate bar, which is, I think, a beautiful packaging idea. They did a really great job with that, except obviously this is a huge fingerprint magnet. It's just so dirty and ugh, it's just kind of gross already. But what can you do? When you open it up, it's actually a little bit different than the other chocolate bar palettes. It's not a magnetic closure, it actually has a clasp, so you actually have to kind of pry it open, and when you close it, it clicks closed again. I don't know if you heard that. Here are all the colors, these beautiful, beautiful colors. It's organized in the same way as all the other chocolate bar palettes pretty much, but you do get a much more beautiful full-size mirror right there. So the thing about this palette is, just like all the other chocolate bar palettes, it smells like chocolate, which is amazing. I love it when my makeup actually smells like food. And the other thing about this palette they're saying is that it's actually infused with real gold. Now that's fancy. That's super fancy and super extra. I own 3 of their other palettes, which I have right here. I have their original chocolate bar palette, the chocolate bonbons palette, and then the sweet peach palette. So they all pretty much look exactly the same on the inside right here. So I'm gonna hold this one, which is the closest to the chocolate gold palette, side by side. The chocolate gold palette is slightly larger and slightly thicker, the packaging, but it's very, very similar. It has a very similar feel to it. So when you open up, this is what you get. The organization is exactly the same. You get the exact same amount of shadows. Another thing I wanted to actually mention was that now the packaging actually opens exactly flat. It can lie flat like this. All the other chocolate bar palettes all end up kind of like this, which can be nice if you want the mirror to kind of stay up, but this mirror does stay up as well, but it can also lie flat, which is kind of nice. So looking at this palette firsthand, I have to say that usually the first thing my eye is drawn to isn't usually the first thing I actually look at. My eyes are usually naturally drawn to bright, metallic, shimmery, glittery colors. That's usually the first thing that I look at. But when I actually look at the palette later on itself, when I actually receive the palette and I'm playing with it, the first color I actually look for is a good transition color. There has to be a transition color that's just slightly a bit darker than your skin tone, for me, in my opinion, for a palette to kind of work together and tie everything together. I think technically that you can make anything work. You can put any of the colors together as long as you have a good transition blending color. And I did find that in this palette, and that's the So Bougie color right here. Just a great light transition color for me. That's just a tad bit darker than my actual skin tone. So I'm noticing that these shadows are not particularly creamy. When I'm touching it, it feels, there's no other way to say it except dry. It feels dry. It doesn't necessarily feel chalky. There's not a lot of fallout coming out from here as I'm touching it. It just feels very stiff, I would say. It doesn't feel creamy or soft or silky or anything like that. So that was Bougie. I definitely have to try out this chocolate gold color right here, because that literally looks like gold, like pure gold, and that you get like a huge, it's like 2 pans of eyeshadows over here, a little bit more than that. There's no fallout from this. It's not like a glitter shadow that kind of just explodes when you touch it and it kind of crumbles. It actually holds really, really nicely as I'm touching it right now. That's so shiny. Beautiful, beautiful metallic color. I'm very, very attracted to these 2 colors right here, these 2 purple colors called New Money and Living Lavish. I think because they're both metallic type of colors and not exactly glitters. Glitters will fall out because obviously it's glitter particles, but metallics tend to be a lot smoother. and that purple swatched on my fingers so much better than it actually applied on my eyes. They also included a matte black in here. So they actually, I think it's nice because they actually included they included 4 matte colors, and these 4 mattes are a range of neutrals that you can use to kind of pull an entire look together. So you have like a matte cream here that you can use as a brow bone highlight. You have a matte brown over here, like a skin tone matte brown as a transition shade. Then you have a darker brown for people who might be darker skin toned, or a great darkening in crease contouring type of color. Then you have a matte black color to kind of darken in any look that you want to create. So far, I'm actually really impressed with how these are swatching. So with that said, let's just get into the swatches and take a look at all of these colors swatched on my arm. Going from left to right, we have Rolling in Dough, Drippin' Diamonds, Livin' Lavish, Gold Dipped, Holla for a Dollar, So Bougie, Classy and Sassy, Famous, New Money, Old Money, Love and Cocoa, Decadent, Cocoa Truffle, Rich Girl, Chocolate Gold, and Money Bags. So that was all these swatches for you. Because most of these colors were metallics, they all swatched relatively very beautifully with the fingers. They were a little bit different when I applied them with a brush on my eyes. So let's jump into that. With So Bougie, I'm applying that all over my eyes as a base. With Living Lavish, I'm putting that on the outer half of the eyes. And going with New Money, I'm putting that on the inner half of the eyes. And with Chocolate Gold, I'm putting that in my inner corners and also underneath in my tear ducts. Going back in with Livin' Lavish and New Money, I'm lining the lower lash line. Taking the color Decadent, which is a black shadow, I'm using that to line the eyes. And that's the super quick, super easy look that I pulled together in just 5 minutes. As you can see from the video, it seemed like the brushes just weren't picking up the metallics that well, especially that dark purple called Living Lavish. I kind of expected that to be a lot darker and a lot more pigmented, especially like what I have swatched on my arm right now. I'm sure that if I wet the brush a little bit, it probably would have picked up the pigment a little bit better. If I used my finger, it would have applied better. But from the video and from how I used it with just a brush, it didn't seem to apply that pigmented and that bright. I think that for this palette, if you're somebody who really likes metallic colors, you're definitely going to like this palette a lot. All these metallics in here are incredibly beautiful. They actually kind of remind me of the palette that Tarte came out with in the Unicorn collection. I don't remember what it was called. It was that circular palette that had a whole bunch of metallics in there, and this is kind of reminding me of that. I personally love metallic colors. I love shimmery metallic colors, so I definitely do like this palette a lot. And for me, it works. I think the composition works mainly because the 4 mattes that I'm getting are all the mattes that I really need. All the other colors are beautiful lid colors. And I think that this palette is just so fun. You can create a lot of really gorgeous metallic looks with it because you have your greens, you have your purples, you have your neutral bronzes, and then you have like a darker green over here and 2 beautiful kind of metallic, bright, shiny highlight colors. Overall, I think this palette is a pretty good palette. If you're somebody who doesn't like metallics and you're a matte palette person, then definitely I don't think this palette would be for you because it is majority metallic shades. If you're looking for something fun for the holidays, if you're looking for something bright and shiny and just really, really vibrant, I think that you would really enjoy this palette. Would I recommend this over the original Too Faced chocolate bar palette? Depends on who you are, obviously. Everybody wants different things. I think if you're starting out and you just want a overall neutral palette to kind of work with every single day, I think the chocolate bar palette is still definitely a better choice. There's a lot of metallics in here, and metallics are shiny and they're fun, but if you're somebody who's just starting out with makeup and you don't want to be that fun and you're very reserved, then I definitely think that the other chocolate bar palette would be better for you because it's a lot more subdued compared to this palette. If you're somebody who absolutely loves makeup and you own all the other chocolate bar palettes and you're wondering if you should get this palette or not, I personally would, because to me this is a very different palette from anything that they ever come out with. Usually Too Faced is known for coming out with very subtle types of palettes. I would say that half their palettes kind of look exactly the same. It has the same tones, it has the same feel to it. They're also usually very neutral and very everyday and wearable. This is very different than anything they've ever come out with. Extremely metallic, extremely bright, extremely shiny. So if you like the chocolate bar palettes, I think you're going to like this one. It's very new and it's very different. And if you're somebody who missed out on the unicorn palette and all the metallic colors in that unicorn palette from Tarte, then I think that you're going to want to pick this up because it's actually quite similar. Colors are a little bit different, but the concept is exactly the same, and I think the colors are just as beautiful. Do I think the gold really has anything to do with it? Not exactly. I don't really see gold in all of these shadows. I mean, the most gold I really see is from that gold color right there. But gold or not, I don't think that really matters with it. It's kind of like an extra wow factor to it. It doesn't really affect my decision or I think how this entire palette applies. Overall, I think this is a really fun and really well put together palette. In terms of color, if I were to say anything about it, I do wish that they did include some sort of really pretty royal blue color into it, mainly because they have greens, then they have purples, but they have a lot of coppery brown neutral type of shades that are all in there, and I think it would have been nice if they just included another pop of color, and blue would have been really nice to see, especially for the holidays. In terms of the formula, I'm actually really surprised that there's like pretty much no fallout from these. They're packed super densely and super tight, which is why I said they had that kind of dry texture to it and it didn't flake out at all. But like I said, the downside to that is that it becomes a little bit more difficult for a brush to pick up these shadows. So definitely consider using your fingers to apply these shadows or using a wet brush to apply these shadows. They definitely do require a little bit more work if you're just going to use a dry brush. So that was it. That's my review of the new Too Faced Chocolate Gold palette. I hope you enjoyed and found this helpful. If you have any questions, definitely leave them down in the comments below. If you like this video and want to see more, definitely check out my channel and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.